Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Chris and today we are going to be making butternut squash bread using sourdough discard. I got the craving for something sweet today. I have a butternut squash here that I need to use, and since butternut squash tend to be on the sweet side, just like your pie pumpkins that you would use for a pumpkin bread recipe, I figured why not make it out of the butternut squash instead? It's the middle of November right now, and butternut squash and other winter type squashes are readily available right now. And if you grew them, then you probably have them in your pantry wondering what in the world you're going to do with all of these. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to make this bread using one of these butternut squashes that I have. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my butternut squash ready to go. It needs to pre-cook before I put it into any recipe at all. So right now it is way too hard to be useful for much of anything. All right, so there we go. Looks like we have a little bit of a interesting spot here. I'll cut that out. I'm going to line this baking sheet with parchment paper. Put these butternut squash on. I'm going to scoop out all of these seeds in this stringy part here. We have our squashes ready to go. I'm going to spray it with olive oil. Just give it a light coating. And I'm going to sprinkle it with a little salt. Not a lot. It doesn't need a lot, just a little bit. It'll help it with the flavor. I'm going to bake these face down, and I'm going to bake them in a 350-degree oven. I'm guessing it should take about an hour for these to cook, between 45 minutes to an hour. So after 45 minutes, we're going to come check on them. I checked the squash after 45 minutes and it needed just a little bit more time, so I left it in there for another 5. I took my fork and poked it and it is ready to go. There they are, looking quite lovely. Now I'm just gonna let these cool. They are way too hot to scoop out the flesh right now. So I'm gonna give them about 20 to 30 minutes to cool down, and then I will scoop the flesh out and we'll be ready to start the actual bread making process. Our squash is cooled down enough to where I can handle it. So I'm gonna go ahead and scoop out the flesh. I used this immersion blender to just puree it up so it's really nice and fine. Squash is a little bit stringy when you bake it. This just makes it have a better texture when you're baking with it. My recipe calls for 1 cup of puree, and I have more than 1 cup here. So I'm gonna measure out 1 cup. So I now have 1 cup of puree in this bowl here. And the rest of this I'm going to set aside for something else. I'm going to put this back, my 1 cup of puree back into the bowl. I'm going to add 3 large eggs. I'm going to mix these together really well. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of oil. Now I'm using an avocado oil here. You can use whatever oil you want as long as it's a neutral tasting oil. I like to stay away from vegetable and canola oils because they are quite inflammatory for you. I have an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, so I have enough inflammation going on in my body. I don't need any help from what I eat. Let's switch over here to the whisk for a second. Incorporate that in. Okay. 3/4 cup of sugar and 3/4 cup of brown sugar. This is a 1/4 cup, that's why I'm adding 3. I'm going to fold in my sourdough starter. I'm using 1 cup. If you're not sure what discard is, when you make a sourdough starter, each day you're going to feed it. And by that, I mean you're going to add an equal amount of flour and water so that the yeast that's developing in it has something to eat. That's how you get very active and bubbly sourdough starter. Every day when you go to feed it, you need to take some out. Otherwise, you're just going to be swimming in more sourdough starter than you know what to do with. So you do what's called discard. That means you're going to take a portion of it out and you're going to replace it with an equal amount of flour and water that was taken out. So if you took out half a cup, then you would replace it with a 1/4 cup of water and a 1/4 cup of flour. This starter, since this is discard, it hasn't been fed, it's not active and bubbly like my sourdough starter is. If you have a sourdough starter, I highly recommend you look into what all of the things that you can do with discard. And I'll definitely post some videos and put some recipes up on my blog, and you can check those out. This is not only a way that I get to use my butternut squash, it's also a way I get to use up my discard so I don't have to throw it away. I really hate wasting, so I try not to waste if at all possible. The next thing I'm going to add is vanilla. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I like vanilla, so just gonna be generous about the 2 teaspoons. It's my philosophy that you can't have enough. If your philosophy is not the same, then don't put as much in. I'm going to start adding my flour, my spices now. I'm going to need 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. Two and a half. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Half a teaspoon of ginger. And a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. If you have fresh nutmeg, use that. It's infinitely better than the nutmeg you buy at the store, like the pre-ground stuff. But I don't have any fresh nutmeg, so oops. This will do just fine. Stir this all in, trying not to get it all over yourself. While you're at it, preheat the oven. You should have preheated the oven before you started to mix everything, but I did not. So I just turned it on, 350. And 350 is 176 degrees Celsius. All right, so there's our batter. I'm gonna hope this fits in one little bread pan. If it doesn't, then we'll have to grab another one. I'm gonna spray this with the same olive oil that we sprayed on the butternut squash, just to help it not stick. It's a very, very full pan. And if you don't make a mess, then you're not really baking. At least not in my kitchen. Our bread is ready to go. I just have to wait for this oven to finish preheating, and then we'll go ahead and pop it in. And we're gonna cook this at, I think I'm gonna start this at 45 minutes, but it's pretty thick. So I wouldn't be surprised if this needs to go a little bit longer. I honestly think it might be a little too much for this pan. We'll see. The oven is preheated. I decided I'm going to put this on some aluminum foil before I put it in, just because this is so full, and in case it starts to kind of bubble over before it develops a crust on it, I just want something to catch it so it doesn't make a huge mess out of my oven. And we'll see how it is in 45 minutes. When the toothpick that I insert in the middle comes out clean, you'll know that it's completely cooked all the way through and it's ready to come out. Our bread is finally done. All in all, it took an hour and 45 minutes for this bread to get done. But good things are worth waiting for. Here's our bread. It looks really good and it smells amazing. I wish you could smell it. So I'm gonna let this cool, and this is going to be our dessert for dinner tonight. We'll taste it later and see how it turned out. Dinner's been eaten and now it's ready for dessert. I'm gonna slice into this, see how it turned out. It looks really nice. Looks nicely cooked all the way through. Let's give it a try. It's so good. I think I might actually like this better than pumpkin bread. And that's saying something because I really like pumpkin bread. This bread has a really nice flavor, but it's not really sweet. And that's exactly the way I like my desserts. I like them to be sweet, but not overly sweet. And this is perfect for that. It was just exactly what I needed today. If you want the recipe for this, I'll post it up on my blog, wiredhomestead.com, and I'll put a link in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. Please also consider hitting the subscribe button. If you want to be notified when I upload my next video, click the bell right next to subscribe and you'll get a notification when I upload my next video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you next time.